My beloved child. There is something about you that people cannot explain. Something they notice the moment you walk into a room. Something they feel, before you even speak. Pause for a second. Why do you think their eyes stay on you just a little longer than usual? Why do conversations suddenly shift when you are mentioned? Why do whispers begin, but never fully reach your ears? Because after your relatives saw you, they didn't just see you. They felt you. And what they said next was not ordinary. Don't skip. Because something huge is waiting for you. There was a moment, quiet, almost unnoticed, when they gathered, looked at you, and exchanged glances. Not the kind of glance people give casually, but the kind that carries unspoken realization. As if they were trying to confirm something. Something they had sensed but never fully understood before. And then, one of them finally said it. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But with a certainty that silenced the room. You're very different. But what did they mean? Different, how? Was it your presence? Your energy? Or something deeper, something even you haven't discovered yet? Stay till the end. Because this is where everything begins to unfold. Think about your life for a moment. Have you ever felt like you don't fully belong where you are? Like you're connected to people, but also somehow separate? Like you understand things others don't even notice? That's not coincidence. That's recognition. Because when they saw you, they weren't just seeing your face, your style, or your personality. They were seeing a reflection of something rare. Something that doesn't come around often. And it made them pause. It made them rethink everything they assumed about you. Here's the part that will surprise you. Some of them felt proud. Some felt curious. And a few felt something they couldn't quite define. Not negativity, but a quiet awareness that you are not meant to live an ordinary path. And that realization? It changes how people see you forever. Because once someone recognizes something rare, they can never unsee it. Let this sink in. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to be just another face in the crowd. There is a reason people remember you. Even after a brief encounter. A reason your presence leaves a mark. Even when you say nothing at all. And your relatives, in that small moment, caught a glimpse of that truth. But they didn't say everything out loud. Because some realizations are too big, too deep, too powerful, to be spoken immediately. And now, a question only you can answer. Have you ever felt like your story is just beginning? Even when everything around you seems normal? That feeling. It's not random. It's a signal. A quiet whisper that something extraordinary is aligning in your life. Something that will make everything make sense. Don't rush this moment. Just breathe. Because what they saw in you is not something temporary. It's something that grows. Something that unfolds. Something that, once fully revealed, changes not just your life, but the lives of those around you. And here's the truth. They didn't finish their sentence. You're very what? Very special. Very rare. Very destined. Or something even deeper. Something words cannot fully capture. That answer is closer than you think. And in the next part, you will begin to understand exactly what they meant. And why this moment was never, it was a sign. Stay close. Because what comes next might change the way you see yourself forever. Something shifted the moment their words faded. Not outside, but within you. It was subtle, almost silent. Like a door opening somewhere deep inside your awareness. You may not have noticed it immediately. But a question stayed with you. What did they really see in me? And that question is not random. It is the beginning of something. Don't skip. Because something huge is waiting for you. There's a hidden truth most people never realize. Sometimes, others recognize your depth before you ever do. They see patterns in your behavior. A calmness in your silence. A strength in the way you carry yourself. That you've always considered normal. But to them, it stands out. It echoes. And when your relatives saw you, they weren't just looking at who you are today. They were sensing who you are becoming. Pause for a moment. Have you ever noticed how certain people open up to you without knowing why? How they trust you quickly, as if you've known them for years? How they feel comfortable around you, even in silence? That's not something everyone has. That is a presence. A rare one. And your relatives, they felt it instantly. But here's where it gets deeper. Not everyone reacts to something rare in the same way. Some admire it. Some feel inspired by it. And some feel quietly unsettled by it. Not because of anything wrong, but because your energy reflects something they haven't yet found within themselves. And that reflection? It creates awareness. It creates curiosity. It creates distance. You may have felt this before. Moments where you're surrounded by people, yet feel like you're standing slightly outside the moment. Not disconnected. Just observing. Understanding. Sensing. That's because your awareness runs deeper than surface-level interactions. And when your relatives saw that, they couldn't ignore it. One of them noticed the way you listen. Not just hearing words, but feeling what's behind them. Another noticed your patience. How you don't rush, don't react impulsively. How you choose your moments. And someone else noticed something even more powerful. Your silence. Because silence, when it carries meaning, is louder than any voice. Stay till the end. Because this next part reveals something most people never understand. You see, being different is not about standing out loudly. It's about standing out quietly. It's about having a presence that doesn't demand attention, yet naturally receives it. And that's exactly what they saw in you. They saw someone who doesn't chase validation, but somehow receives it anyway. Someone who doesn't try to impress, yet leaves an impression that lingers. And here's something even more surprising. Some of them couldn't explain why they kept thinking about you, even after you left. Why your words replayed in their minds. Why your presence stayed with them. Because when someone carries a certain depth, their impact doesn't end when they walk away. It continues. Quietly. Powerfully. Let this settle in your mind. You are not ordinary. Not in the way you think. Not in the way you've been told. And this is not about being better than anyone else. It's about being aligned with something within you that most people are still searching for. Clarity. Awareness. Stillness. And that's why their sentence remained unfinished. You're very. Because what they wanted to say could not be captured in one word. It was a combination of things. Very aware. Very calm. Very rare. Very different in a way that feels meaningful. But here's the part that changes everything. This realization is not just about how they see you. It's about how you begin to see yourself. Because once you understand your own presence, your own depth, you stop questioning it. You stop shrinking it. You stop trying to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. Have you ever felt like you were holding back parts of yourself just to make others comfortable? Like you dim your thoughts, soften your voice, hide your true perspective? That ends here. Because what they saw in you was not something to hide. It was something to embrace. Don't rush past this moment. Because awareness is the beginning of transformation. And right now, you are standing at the edge of that transformation. Not forced. Not sudden. But unfolding. Naturally. There's a reason you're hearing this right now. A reason these words feel familiar. Like something you've always known, but never fully acknowledged. Because deep inside, you've always felt it. That you are meant for something more. Not louder. Not bigger. But deeper. And now, another question. What if the way people see you is a preview of who you are becoming? What if their words were not just observation, but recognition? Recognition of a version of you that is slowly stepping forward. Stay with this feeling. Because in the next part, you will discover what makes your presence so powerful. And why certain people are drawn to you without even understanding why. And when you realize that, everything begins to make sense. There is a reason your presence feels heavier than your words. And lighter than your silence. It's a strange balance, isn't it? People can't fully explain it. But they feel it the moment you're near. And this is exactly what your relative sensed. Don't skip. Because something huge is waiting for you. Let's go deeper, just for a moment. Have you ever noticed how your energy changes a room? Without you even trying? Conversations soften. Tension lowers. Or sometimes, everything becomes unusually quiet. That's not coincidence. That's influence. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that naturally shapes the space around it. And when your relatives saw you, they didn't just notice you. They noticed what happens because of you. Some of them felt a sense of calm, as if being around you made things clearer, simpler, easier to understand. Others felt something different. A quiet curiosity. Like there's more to you. Layers they couldn't fully reach. Depth they couldn't fully measure. And that curiosity, it stayed with them, long after the moment passed. But here's where it becomes even more powerful. Your presence does not come from what you show. It comes from what you carry within. Your thoughts. Your awareness. Your way of observing life without rushing to react. That inner stillness? It speaks louder than words ever could. Stay till the end. Because this next realization might change everything for you. You see, most people are constantly trying to be seen. Trying to prove something. Trying to be noticed. Trying to be accepted. But you? You don't chase that. And that's exactly why people notice you more. Because there's a quiet confidence in not needing validation. A strength in simply being. Without trying to become something else. And your relatives felt that difference immediately. They saw someone who doesn't follow the noise, but understands it. Someone who doesn't rush into every conversation, but chooses when to speak. Someone who doesn't need to explain themselves constantly, because their presence already says enough. Let this question sit with you. When was the last time you truly looked at yourself? Not from doubt, but from awareness? Not asking, what am I missing? But asking, what is already within me? Because the answer to that is what they saw in you. There's also something else. Something very few people realize. When you carry depth, you naturally become a mirror. People see themselves more clearly around you. Their thoughts, their emotions, their insecurities, their strengths. And that can feel powerful, but also uncomfortable. Because not everyone is ready to see themselves that clearly. That's why some people are drawn to you, while others keep a quiet distance. Not because of anything wrong, but because your presence reveals things, without saying a single word. And your relatives? They experienced that moment. That brief, silent realization. That being around you feels different. More real. More aware. More meaningful. But here comes the part you didn't expect. This is not something you were given randomly. It's something you've been building, without even realizing it. Through your experiences. Through your thoughts. through the way you've handled moments in your life. Every time you chose understanding over reaction. Every time you stayed calm when others rushed. Every time you observed instead of judging. You were shaping this presence. Don't rush past this truth. Because this is where your power begins to make sense. You are not here to follow every path. You are here to see paths clearly. To understand. To reflect. To bring a different kind of awareness into the spaces you enter. And that is rare. Think about this. How many people can sit in silence and still feel complete? How many people can observe without reacting instantly? How many people can understand without needing to control? That's where you are different. Not louder. Not stronger in appearance. But deeper. And your relatives? They caught a glimpse of that depth. Even if they couldn't fully explain it. Even if they didn't have the exact words. You're very. The sentence still lingers, doesn't it? Because it wasn't meant to end quickly. It was meant to stay with you. To grow inside your thoughts. To slowly reveal itself, piece by piece. And now, another realization begins to form. What if the reason people notice you is not just because of who you are now, but because of who you are becoming? Stay close to this feeling. Because in the next part, you will begin to understand why certain people feel connected to you instantly. And why your presence has a quiet pull that cannot be ignored. And when that truth unfolds, you will never see yourself the same way again. Something about you doesn't ask for attention. Yet somehow, it receives it anyway. Not loudly, not forcefully. But in a way that lingers in people's minds long after you're gone. And this is where everything begins to connect. Don't skip. Because something huge is waiting for you. Have you ever noticed? You don't have to try too hard for people to feel something around you. There's no need to impress. No need to prove. No need to explain every part of yourself. And still, they feel drawn. Not in a surface-level way, but in a way that feels deeper than usual. That's not accidental. That's alignment. When your relatives saw you, they didn't just notice your personality. They noticed your frequency. The way you carry calmness without effort. The way your presence feels grounded. The way your energy doesn't fluctuate with every small situation. And that kind of steadiness? It's rare. Let's slow down for a moment. Because this next part matters more than you think. There are people in this world who move with noise. And there are people who move with meaning. Noise is loud. Quick. Temporary. But meaning? Meaning stays. Meaning builds. Meaning transforms. And you? You are someone who carries meaning. That's why certain people feel instantly connected to you. They may not understand it at first. But something inside them recognizes something inside you. A kind of familiarity. A sense of, I feel comfortable here. Even if they've just met you. Stay till the end. Because this is where the hidden truth reveals itself. Connection is not always built through words. Sometimes it's built through presence. Through the way you listen. The way you respond. The way you understand without needing everything explained. And you have that. Naturally. Your relatives noticed how people respond to you. How conversations around you feel different. How even silence around you doesn't feel empty. It feels full. And that's something very few people carry. But here's something even more powerful. You don't realize your own impact. Because to you, this is normal. This is just how you are. But to others, it's something they don't experience often. And that's why it stands out. Let this question sit with you. What if your presence is not just something you have, but something you are meant to use? Not in a loud way. Not in a controlling way. But in a way that brings clarity, peace, understanding into the lives you touch. There's a quiet influence in you. Not one that forces change, but one that inspires it. People start thinking differently after talking to you. They start seeing things from new angles. They feel calmer. More aware. More centered. And they don't always know why. That's your impact. And your relatives? They saw it in a single moment. That instant recognition. That silent understanding. That you are not just someone who exists in spaces. You shape them. But here comes something deeper. Something you may not have fully realized yet. The reason your presence feels powerful is because you don't try to control everything. You allow things to unfold. You observe before reacting. You feel before judging. And that creates a kind of energy that feels safe. Real. Trustworthy. And in a world where everything feels rushed, where people are constantly trying to prove something, your calmness becomes magnetic. Don't rush past this realization. Because this is where your uniqueness becomes clear. You are not meant to compete with everyone. You are not meant to follow every trend. You are not meant to fit into every expectation. You are meant to remain aligned with yourself. And that alignment? It's what people feel. Think about this. Why do people remember certain individuals, even when they didn't say much? Why do some people leave an impact without trying to be the center of attention? Because presence is more powerful than performance. And you carry presence. Your relatives couldn't explain all of this. They couldn't put it into perfect words. But they felt it. And that's why their sentence stayed unfinished. You're very what? Very grounded. Very aware. Very rare. Or something beyond all of that. The truth is, you are a combination of things that don't usually come together easily. Calm, yet strong. Quiet, yet impactful. Simple, yet deep. And that combination? It's unforgettable. Now pause. Because this next thought might change how you see yourself forever. What if your purpose is not to be understood by everyone, but to be felt by the right ones? What if the reason some people don't fully understand you is because your depth requires a different level of awareness? And what if that's not a limitation, but your greatest strength? Stay close. Because we're about to uncover something even more powerful. There are moments coming into your life where this presence will matter more than ever. Moments where people will look to you, not for loud answers, but for calm clarity. Moments where your silence will guide more than words. Moments where your understanding will create change. And when those moments arrive, you will remember this. You will understand why you always felt different. Why you never fully fit into ordinary patterns. Why your path always felt slightly unique. Because you were never meant to be ordinary. Not in a loud, exaggerated way, but in a quiet, meaningful way. And now, we return to the beginning. After your relatives saw you, they said, "You're very." They didn't finish it. Because some truths are not meant to be rushed. They are meant to unfold. To be realized, slowly, deeply, personally. And in the next part, you will finally begin to understand the exact word they couldn't say. The one that defines your presence. The one that explains everything you've been feeling. The one that has been within you, all along. Stay till the end of that moment. Because when you hear it, it won't just make sense. It will feel like something inside you has finally clicked.